Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Mikkel Thorup, and this is the Expat Money Show. Today, I am joined by my co-host, Marc Clair. Marc, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Mikkel. It's good to be back in the newsroom.
It is good to be back in the newsroom. I am looking forward to it, and we're going to do a little bit of a different format today, which I'm pretty excited about. We've got some really interesting things in the news. The world doesn't seem to be getting any calmer, doesn't seem to be getting any more chilled out or relaxed. It's just problem after problem after problem. But we're going to get into the news in a moment. Just a quick reminder for anybody, we've got a couple of tours coming up this year in 2025. If you guys want to join us, then I highly recommend going to expatmoney.com/tours and checking out all the events. I'd like to personally invite you guys, if you're listening to us in the newsroom today, to come and join us on one of the trips, because there's so much going on. There's so much good options out there. And although we're going to highlight some of the not good options today, I think that we are very positive people, and you will see that there are some very viable options out there if you're someone who respects freedom and wants to protect your family and have a little bit of fun and probably drink some nice red wine and eat some good meat. So, Marc, if you are ready, sir, why don't you go ahead and pull up the news for this week? And I'm super keen to dive in.
I am ready, Mikkel, but I think I would be remiss before I pull up our expat news stack if I didn't mention, as of the day of this recording, there is some other news that I suppose it's not technically expat news, but maybe it is, because I feel like everybody in the world had to know a little bit about the man who passed away today, the great Hulk Hogan. And this is not a comment on, I know there's been scandals with Hulk Hogan. This is not a comment on Terry Bollea, the person. No comment on that stuff. But Hulk Hogan, the character, Hulk Hogan, the icon, is someone that I know we're similar age. I know we grew up with saying your prayers, taking your vitamins. And yeah, he's an icon. He lives actually not too far from where we live here in Tampa, and has a bar about 40 minutes away. We had been talking about going to his karaoke night for months, and we just kept putting it off. And now I guess we can't be put off any longer. So there's a lesson in there somewhere. Don't put things off for tomorrow that you can do today, because you never know when tomorrow is not going to be there. And unfortunately for the Hulkster, there's no more tomorrow. But his memory will live on for certain in the memories of our generation.
Rest in peace. I mean, it's a sad day, but I think, as you rightly pointed out, don't put off things. And I mean, I guess that's what we're all about at this company: taking personal responsibility, standing up, and doing the things today, and not just hoping and wishing and putting off until tomorrow.
Indeed. Now we can head into to me, all of this is less somber news than Hulk passing. So it's only going up from here, but we'll dive right in. We actually will start with some positive news here. This is an interesting one. This is from a few months ago. This first came out, but Panama City, your home city, is actually going to start allowing Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency payment for taxes, fees, and permits. Now, I know the first thing that a lot of the libertarians are out there screaming: taxes, permits. Why do you want to make that easier? Well, calm down, all right? We can not love taxes and not love permits and still see this as a pretty positive development in the world of cryptocurrency. What do you think about this, and about Panama City's mayor, who's been a huge advocate of cryptocurrency in every aspect?
Yeah, I'm pretty bullish on this in general. Not because, once again, I also want to be able to pay taxes, and I probably wouldn't be trading my Bitcoin for taxes. I'd be getting rid of dirty fiat. However, it's a trend in the right direction. The more that we can have places and things, and now municipalities that can accept Bitcoin, the better off I think that we're going to be. Now, it's very interesting because not only are they talking about municipal taxes here, but there are also proposals for the Panama Canal to be able to bring in Bitcoin as your tolls for going through the canal. And I think that's super interesting as well, because you can imagine if the city of Panama, or the greater Panama country, were to start stockpiling Bitcoin, the value that could be adding to the country. And we can see the balance sheet of a place like El Salvador, which has gone up drastically since they made the decision to make Bitcoin legal tender. And so I think it's all going in the right direction. Now, from my understanding of this so far, they're not actually going to be holding Bitcoin. So as soon as the payments are made, it's actually converted to US dollars. But I think that, that can also be fixed a little bit later on when they actually modify the laws. Because for this, it was not necessary to change any laws. But piece by piece, I think that we're headed in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, this Mayor Mizrachi of Panama, his name is actually, I don't know if it's pronounced Meyer or Mayor, but either way, it's pretty funny that he's Mayor, Meyer, Mayor, Mayor. He's a huge crypto advocate. He's been all around the world talking about cryptocurrencies and this sort of thing. So he's really a big advocate of bringing cryptocurrency into the daily functioning of our society. So whether or not we love taxes and love fees, it is certainly a step in that direction.
Well, he actually lives about 1 minute from my house. You'll see him. He's got a maybe I shouldn't say this. He's got a cyber truck, so you always recognize when he's driving around because I mean there's just not so many cyber trucks around. But he's a really young guy. He's mid-30s. Seems like he's got a very good head on his shoulders. Very bullish on crypto and very well liked by every Panamanian that I talk to. So I'm actually should be meeting up with him relatively soon. We've got an intro coming, so I'm looking forward to getting to know him on a personal level. Obviously, he's very, very busy, but I'm bullish not just on Panama, not just on Bitcoin, but Mayor I think could end up being the president of Panama once he gets a couple more decades of experience under his belt. So you heard it here first. I expect him to be president at some point.
All right, you did hear it here first. And but when your name is Mayor, too bad his name wasn't, he wasn't born Presidente or something. That would be a shoo-in. But his name is Mayor. He pretty much had to become a mayor. We'll see where it goes from there. All right, we're going to stick on cryptocurrency related news now. Speaking of cryptocurrency being accepted for things, St. Kitts and Nevis has announced they are now going to accept cryptocurrency for their citizenship by investment. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, so this actually came out a little while ago. We didn't really comment on it too much at the time because I wanted to see what was going to happen. It's one thing to just see the news, the headline the first day, but you kind of have to watch afterwards the aftermath. And a lot of this is proposals and what could happen, or someone in the administration said something. So we don't necessarily want to comment on these things on day one. We want to see how they age a little bit before we chime in. Now, the interesting thing is we did the St. Kitts and Nevis with a large group of our clients a couple of years ago. And I actually had one of the clients who was already proving that they had the required funds via crypto. So what we did, we were quite creative. We went down to the notary public with his laptop and showed that he had the password and the keys to sign into his wallet. And then they were able to see the balance in the hot wallet on his computer and could verify then as a notary that he does indeed have the funds. And we sent the staff down there, we did all the translation, we helped facilitate all these things. But this was 2.5 years ago or something like that, before any of this type of news came out. So we're often pushing the envelope on what is possible long before any of this news comes out. But once again, I think that crypto is an excellent way that countries can accept fees and in this case, non-tax dollars into the economy. And if they are smart, they will sit on it for a little while, or maybe stake it, maybe not with BTC, but with the Ethereum or something like that, stake it and, generate a bit of cash. And instead of holding foreign currency reserves that are going down drastically, hold a bit of crypto, maybe some Solana on there and stake that at 7%. I think that's a much better option.
All right. Well, this St. Kitts and Nevis citizenship is a very popular one, and for pretty good reason. And it may become more popular with this news. We are going to move on to some more St. Kitts news here. This one, well, this might be an interesting one for people that are looking at residency in St. Kitts. This is a residency clause that St. Kitts is bringing in, and this is sort of in response to a travel ban that, well, President Trump, as you know, he likes to ban things now and then and throw some things out there. So one of the things he recently tossed out there was this Dominica ban. So how does this ban affect the St. Kitts residency processing here?
So we have to take one step back on this one to kind of understand the landscape to see why this is important. So first of all, there's 5 countries in the Caribbean that do citizenship by investment. There's St. Kitts and Nevis on the one end. I have my St. Kitts and Nevis passport. I'm a citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis. They have the longest, most well-respected program in the Caribbean. They started in 1984. It is a very well trodden path to citizenship. Okay. And then on the other side, we have Dominica, which is already lost visa-free access to the Schengen zone. The UK, they're the ones that we have refused to do here at Expat Money. In all of our
They're
years
on the
of
naughty
doing
list.
They are on the naughty list. Absolutely. And in all of our years of doing citizenship by investment, I have never, not once done a Dominica citizenship. Okay. I have always talked clients out of it. I've always persuaded people that there are other paths. Now, that is for reasons that we're partially getting into right now, but also I met a lot of the people in Dominica who were doing some of the projects there and shared ownership of like almost like timeshare type of things. And I was like, this is super dodgy. I don't want anything to do with this. I don't want my clients to have anything. And then in the middle, you've got St. Lucia, Antigua and Barbuda, and Grenada. And I think those are kind of the middle ground. I'd put Grenada probably closer to the St. Kitts side of things. But now St. Kitts is coming out and saying that there has to be a minimum time requirement for all new citizens. It wouldn't apply to me. It wouldn't apply to everybody that we got in the last couple of years, that you have to spend time in the country every single year. The dates that I've seen proposed was something like 35 days over 5 years. So basically a week a year. Now, it wasn't clear to me when I was going through the documentation whether that 35 days was actually going to be in one go. Could it be split by two, or does it have to be 1 week a year, which is obviously way more problematic? Like if you have to go for a month, then okay, fine. Then you go for a nice vacation or a workation on the beach or something like that and get it done. And that looked like that was the entirety, was the 35 days during the 5 years. Now, will that stay? Is it going to be 35 days? Is it going to be 70 days? Is it going to be 183 days? That we don't know yet at this point. But we're going to be watching this one pretty closely to see what is finalized. But the travel bans and what's going to happen with Dominica and these other countries, and is that coming to someone else? And really, at the end of the day, they just keep moving the goalpost. That's it. They keep moving the goalpost over and over and over again. And Caribbean and other CBI countries comply, and then they move the goalpost again. So, I mean, at some point, I think you need to just tell them, listen, we're not interested, and this is the program, this is our country, and that's it.
And leave us alone. But you know, it's a point that no matter what, no matter how great a program is, no matter how amazing it looks today, again, you don't want to be like me, wishing he still had a chance to go to see Hulk Hogan's karaoke night. You got to act on how things are today, because things are going to change. Unfortunately, things are getting more restrictive all around the world at all times. These things do not really tend to go in the other direction. They don't tend to get easier to access. They don't tend to get cheaper, and that's pretty much always going to be the case. All right, we're going to move on to more citizenship by investment news. And of course, one of the most asked about countries over the last 2-3 years has been Argentina, because of course, Javier Milei. And our people are always very interested in what Javier Milei is doing. I would say, I think you would agree, between Argentina and El Salvador, probably the two countries that are just asked about the most, because people want to know they're excited about what's going on there. So any kind of news that trickles out about this stuff, we get a lot of people asking about it. So right now, this is only a proposal. It's only a quote unquote plan. So we'll see what the details are. But there is a proposed $500,000 CBI being proposed for the country of Argentina. What do you think about this one?
I am super excited about this. I will be the first person in line to get Argentinian citizenship. This is a, quote unquote, a real country here. It's so different than talking about the Caribbean, where, these are small island nations. They are not food, water, energy independent, and they have maybe a population of 40,000 people or something like that. You compare that to Argentina, like that's unbelievable. Like there is no large countries that do citizenship by investment. It doesn't exist. And at a $500,000, if they do this right, this will eat everybody else's lunch in the investment migration space. Because if you can buy a non-government approved project, like a home or a farm or a piece of land for $500,000, and on the back end get a citizenship that's going to give you visa-free access to 171 countries or something like that. And it's a Mercosur. So now you have settlement rights in Paraguay and Brazil and Uruguay and all these countries in South America. It's unbelievable. Like I was on a board meeting with one of the companies that I'm an investor in, and we were talking about it. And I was like, listen, we need to be in Argentina. We're doing a large deal, a very large deal in Costa Rica right now. And, they were saying, hey, what about Mexico next? What about Mexico? And I was like, no, forget about Mexico. Forget about it. We need to go to Argentina. And I recently got followed on Twitter, on X, by Javier Milei, and he retweets a lot of my stuff now, especially specifically talking about Argentina. And, we're making inroads in Argentina. And I've been sitting on the sidelines. Like, I was always very transparent about this at the beginning. I love Argentina. I love going there and spending time there and eating there, and it's amazing. But I wanted to give Javier Milei, a year and a half to kind of get his feet wet and see what he was going to be able to do. But I feel firmly in the camp that he's there to stay, and he's making positive changes as long as they don't assassinate him. And I've said this also from the very beginning, because I think that is unfortunately something that could happen, because he is really shaking up the status quo. So, as long as that doesn't happen, or some type of, black swan type of thing like that, I think Argentina is very much heading in the right direction. And I am actively looking at participating in the citizenship by investment, as well as doing some type of a development there. Now, we have to see what the details are going to come out, because as you rightly pointed out, Mark, we don't have any details. It's just a proposal at this point. It might not happen at all. I might be super excited about this and talking about it, and in reality, nothing happens. Until it's done, until it's made into law, and until we have successfully taken a client, or I've taken myself through the process, until that moment, it's all speculation.
Indeed. I think there's no doubt. I mean, 2 years ago when Milei was first elected, I think we were both kind of like, well, I mean, we like what he's saying, like what he wants to do, but he's just one man. So, we'll have to see where things go. But he may be just one man, but he is just one man that has really been on a mission. And it's clear that he is actually trying to ram through the radical change that he promised. Whether or not it's all going to be pretty and clean, it's not all pretty and clean, but it's certainly moved in the right direction. I think it's safe to say it's exceeded any of our expectations and how much he's been able to get done in such a short time. So certainly, if they're also able to pair this excitement, this political excitement, with so many of the right people being excited about Argentina, I don't picture the woke mob trying to scoop up these Argentina CBIs to go live in Javier Milei's libertarian dreamland. I think this is one that'll really draw a lot of attention, especially from our people. Again, if it pans out, if it all makes sense once these things actually come to light, but certainly one we're going to be keeping an eye on.
100%. And I'm rooting for him. I want to see him succeed. I want to see the people of Argentina be free. I want to see this become, an expat hotspot, and add it to the list of countries that we're talking about every day, and relocating clients to. There's still problems there. I am not the first mover, at least with my clients' money or with their lives. I'm not the first mover into places. I like to spend a little time and review and watch and see and meet people and just participate at a low level at first, until I feel confident about it, because this is people's lives. Like, am I going to be relocating, one of my lawyers or dentists or doctors or, business owners to Argentina just on a headline? No, I mean, I have these people's lives. So I have to take this very, very seriously. Now, one other interesting thing that you said at the beginning, Mark, is that the two countries that get asked about the most is Argentina and El Salvador, two countries that I love and have, been to, multiple times and are very, very bullish on. But don't forget, or don't mishear what we're saying. Okay, people are asking about Argentina and about El Salvador, but where are they actually putting their money? They're putting their money in Panama, in Costa Rica, in Paraguay, in other countries. People ask a lot of questions about Argentina and about El Salvador, but these countries are like the next big thing. But take a place like Panama, which is already well established, where people have been coming here for 20 years. I first came to Panama. I came here in 2003. What's that? 22 years ago. I came to Panama and recognized at that point how amazing this was. And look at the transformation over the last 20 years here. I think that we're at the cusp of seeing the transformation in these countries. So, we are not the early movers. We're here at the inflection point on all of these countries. If I was in Argentina 10 years ago, would I be any better off? No, I can enter right now. And I don't have all of this downside. I don't have all of this inflation. I don't have all of these negatives. But prices may have gone up a bit. They might have gone up 50% or even 100%. But when they're, poised to go up 1,000%, that's the moment that I want to enter in, because I don't want to have waiting on the sidelines forever, or have a chance of losing all of your capital by buying something that just gets confiscated or taxed into oblivion or anything like this because of bad policy.
To continue the analogy, you want to get to Hulk Hogan's karaoke night just at the peak of during the right exact song.
There you go.
More or
there
less.
You go. That's what I was trying to say. Thank you for summing it up.
Exactly. That's why I'm here. All right, moving along to our friends in France. And I do say our friends in France. You know, we're going to spend the next bit of the show throwing some stones, I guess you might say, at Europe and European countries. Why? Because they give us a lot of material. But to be clear, we love the people of Europe. I just spent a couple of weeks in Europe and had a wonderful time. It's what the governments are doing that we're not a big fan of. And this is just a small story here coming out of France, but it is sort of indicative of the overall waves of crime and increased crime in what we used to really see is one of the safest parts of the world in Europe, one of the safest places you could live, safest places you could travel, and that just doesn't seem to be the case anymore. So this story out of France, some French cities are beginning to impose curfews on children after drug violence. Now, there's a lot of ways I could take this headline. I don't know why children are participating in drug violence. First of all, that's something for adults, right? We should be very clear. But I mean, the fact that these major metropolitan cities have to take a move like this, or feel that they have to make a move like this, it really doesn't say much good about what's going on in the society.
No, it wasn't even just one city. It was like multiple, like across the south, and it wasn't just, oh, there was a bit of violence. Like, you know, we were just talking about El Salvador. El Salvador used to be the murder capital of the world, and now it's one of the safest countries in the world. And now you look at a place like France, which was the number one travel tourism destination on planet Earth forever. And now, like, they're getting all of the murders. That's where all the violence is happening. And like you rightly said, like, I love my European brothers. I have lots of European clients. I have French clients. I've got German clients. I've got Norwegian clients. Like, get out. Like, well, I'm not sure what else you guys need to see, but I mean, unfortunately, your countries are going to hell in a handbasket. You know, my country's going to hell in a handbasket. You know, Canada is a complete nightmare. So I'm not saying this to be mean to you guys. Like, I point the finger at our administration in Canada and other places in the world too. But I mean, it's not like this everywhere else in the world. Like, we need to now have curfews in place for children. I mean, in France, like, it's just, I don't know, it's just bizarro world to me.
It's not a good trend. But continuing in Europe, the UK. Now, the UK is not technically part of Europe, but it's all over there, at least not in the EU sense of things. But the United Kingdom has recently faced the largest single-year exodus of wealth ever recorded. Now, this is something we've talked about for several years now. The wealthy leaving the UK, and expats that once came to the UK under the Dom regime also exiting the UK. So this is just a trend that has continued and doesn't seem to be going any way but the same direction, the wealth leaving the UK.
It's truly amazing, because years ago, I used to just think that governments were just stupid. Like, I really just thought they're just really low intelligent, stupid people, and they make dumb choices. At this point, like, you can't believe that, because there is no way that an administration could be so stupid with their policies. Like, if the idea was that you were going to make your country better or more prosperous or anything like that, you wouldn't just blanket cancel the non-habitual tax residency and drive, you know, tens of thousands of millionaires out of your country in a single year. Like, what, 14, 15, 16,000 ultra high net worth and ultra high net worth individuals in a single year. And it's now revving up more in 2025, and 2026 is expected to be even more. So, like, what, you just thought you were going to tax the rich, eat the rich, and they're going to stay and just take it, and just, like, they've been under the non-habitual tax residency for a long time. They built a life there. They own real estate. They spend their money very freely, drive the economy through commerce. And now you've just scared them all away. And where are they going? They're going to Dubai. They're going to Abu Dhabi. They're going to other places in the world where there's no tax on these types of things, and they're spending their money like hand over fist in these places. And I used to live over there for almost a decade, and I saw money moving into these countries, and I spent a lot of money in those countries in my decade of living there. But you know, we used to go to London regularly, and the city, there was a lot of money there. But I think they are purposely trying to dismantle society. I think that there is call me a conspiracy theorist, but I think that there is a group of people in there who are actively trying to destroy things. And I don't know who that is, some foreign actors or deep state, UK deep state, I'm not sure. But this doesn't happen by accident.
Indeed. Well, there are some within the UK that are at least making a effort, I suppose, to turn the tide. Look at our old boy Nigel Farage there. I think Nigel Farage is probably one of the best or one of the best UK politicians, I should say. But at the end of the day, he's not really that much more effective than anyone else, especially when he's a loud voice in a very socialist wilderness. But nonetheless, his Reform Party has proposed a £250,000 Britannia card, hoping to bring some wealthy migrants back into the UK. Mikkel, do you think this is going to have any success to reverse the recent trend?
Do you know how much more difficult it is to bring people back after you've already alienated them and thrown stones at them and scared them away? They've sold their homes. They've pulled their kids out of private school. They've moved overseas. And now you're trying to bring them back in. It's like a too little too late. They canceled the tier 1 visa a couple of years ago. Then they got rid of the non-habitual tax residency. And now they want to try to, undo these things and bring in a new visa. It's like, why would anybody trust the UK at all? Like, we saw this with Malaysia. They had their MM2H visa, which I, once again, have never encouraged anybody to do. I used to live in Singapore. I used to go over there. It's fine to go on holiday to Malaysia and stuff like that, but I didn't like the program at all. I was never helping people do this. And then they took it from, I think it was like a $2,500 remittance and monthly to something like a $10,000, and they scared all of the people out of there. So there was all these retirees living in Malaysia. They all moved overseas, and then they're like, no, sorry, we changed our mind. We're sorry. We're blah, blah, blah. Come back. And everyone was like, no, we're not coming back. We already left. We got rid of our house. We got rid of our car. We got rid of our furniture and everything like that. We pulled our kids out of school, as I said. And so it's so much more difficult to try to bring them back after you've already alienated them. We're seeing it in Portugal. We're seeing it in Spain. We're seeing it in so many of these countries because of arrogance, okay? Because of arrogance of them. And if they just treated expats and foreigners and foreign direct investment with respect, they wouldn't have this problem.
Not only are they trying to get them back and restore, this would restore those sort of non-dom type benefits for people that purchase this card, but you got to pay £250,000 to get those benefits back. Probably no thanks.
The tier 1 visa was something like £2 million or something like that when that was running. So, why now do one that's 10 times less expensive? Why didn't that one was working fine? They brought in so much money with that visa. People, because of the non-habitual tax residency, there was a huge benefit for people being there. You can have a modern standard of life. Nowadays, I mean, forget about it. The UK is as dangerous as the south of France with curfews for children and stuff like that. But I mean, the UK used to be a relatively safe place. I mean, those days are gone though. It's over. The growth and the benefit and the freedom is going to be found overseas. It's not in these legacy countries. It's not in France or the UK or Canada or Australia or places like that. It's Panama and Argentina and El Salvador and Paraguay and other places around the world, Dubai and other things like this, okay? There are so many better options out there. And it's all you need to do is just pick up and move, and we can help you at expatmoney.com. We do the legal work. We have the accountants. We help you through the whole process. Like, you're not stuck in abusive relationships with your government. Like, enough of this Stockholm syndrome, please. Just get out, guys.
That sounded like almost like it was a planned plug, but I know it wasn't. But it could have been a plug for the Expat Money Online Summit coming up this October, which is all about Latin America and why Latin America is the future. So I couldn't have written a better one than that.
Plug away, my friend. That was more of a rant because I do get frustrated on these things because I am still extremely passionate about this, and I am an emotional man, and I read things like this, and it just boils my blood. Like it just absolutely makes me crazy.
Well, I also didn't plan this plug, but I'm going to do it now. You can learn all about why Latin America is indeed the future. That is the theme of this year's Expat Money Summit, and we're doing it over 3 days, a 3-day weekend. It should be a lot easier for people to get in and catch these live presentations over a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So we're just doing a jam-packed 3 days, October 10th to 12th. It's completely free to attend. So come on over to expatmoneysummit.com, and we will see you there.
I'm looking forward to it. This will be the 5th year doing summits, once under a different brand, 4 years under the Expat Money brand, but 5 years of summits. And I think we were the trailblazers on these online summits. I never saw this method done by anyone before us. And that's why I think we attract, 8,000-10,000 people a year to our online summit. It's a big week. This year, as you rightly said, we're going to be doing it over 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It should be a little bit more manageable. We're going to condense it a little bit. We're going to be focusing just on Latin America. So I'm super excited.
Very much so. I will be there both in attendance and hosting some things as well. So come on over to expatmoneysummit.com and we will see you there. Moving on, we're not quite moving on from the UK yet. We do have one more quick little UK story to touch on. The UK is now extending electronic travel to European visitors. So this is something we've touched on a few times, this electronic travel, the ETIAS that's going to, this is also going to apply to Americans, Canadians that are visiting the UK, but now the UK, they're visiting Europe and the UK, but now the UK is actually requiring Europeans to apply for this electronic travel your authorization, which is very different than I will say. One nice thing about traveling through the EU is once you come into the passport, we came into the Netherlands and then we were able to bounce around from there, bounce into Rome. It is pretty nice not to hit immigration control again, but the UK is certainly looking at things a little bit different, and they're instituting these ETAs. When I was actually in the airport, we were doing a layover from the Netherlands on the way back home through the UK, and they actually had the sign saying you do need an electronic visa. We didn't, because Heathrow has a special area where if you're not leaving, you don't really have to deal with immigration. But they did have signs up there indicating that Europeans did need these.
Yeah, I mean, what you're referring to is airside. Whenever you're airside,
Right.
Except the United States, there's an exception there. Except the United States, you usually do not need any type of visa as long as you stay airside and you're going onwards. I mean, these are just more requirements, more bureaucracy, more snooping around in your business as you're traveling through and traveling around the world. I don't like any of these types of things. I wish that we could just have a little bit more freedom in our lives, but I don't think that is the trend. And I think with AI coming in and more surveillance, I'm super glad I started traveling in the year 2000, and now at roughly 120 countries, I've gotten a lot of these places out of my system. Most of the countries that I need to do now are in Africa and the stand countries. I think I've been to everything in North America, Central America, almost everything in South America, almost every Middle Eastern country, almost every European country, almost everything in East and Southeast Asia. I have to do the stands, and I've only done 10 countries in Africa. And I think that makes up the 183. I've been to most places in the South Pacific as well. I might be missing 1 or 2 in the South Pacific. But yeah, I'll be traveling in Africa where they don't have any of these types of things. And if you guys haven't been to the UK, well, you can get used and abused trying to enter the country now.
Hey, back in the late 90s / early 2000s, I used to go to Mexico with a driver's license. And that was fine. That used to be a Mexico, a US. If you were just driving across the border, driver's license was totally fine. Can't even imagine it now. I mean, it's not that hard now.
I used to go from Canada to the US with my birth certificate, which didn't even have a photo on it. Like, it was just a piece of paper. That's what we used to enter the US. That was all pre 9/11 stuff. Right. But the Patriot Act.
The funniest thing about this article that I just had to point out, this one comes from gov.uk. So you'll notice the phrasing of the headline: UK to extend electronic travel to European visitors. They make it sound like, we're reaching out to our European brethren and welcoming you with this new electronic visa.
For sure.
All right, we will move on now to another country that you mentioned a couple times here. That is the country of Portugal. And boy, they've got a couple things going on here that we're going to touch on sort of in one fell swoop here. But they're aiming. This is their aim. This is their intention, their stated intention. I still hear expats and people that are thinking about expat life, but haven't really dove into things too much, say, talk about Portugal, and I just send them articles like this, which they seem to be providing us with just about every day nowadays. So Portugal is now aiming to double the citizenship timeline to 10 years. At the same time, if you don't mind, I think I'm just going to sort of bundle these together. The golden visa processing times are hitting a record 39.6 months for the Portugal golden visa. So processing times increasing greatly, while the government's stated intention is to increase how long it takes you to become a citizenship. Could they be waving any more of a flag to people saying, get the hell out of here, we don't want you?
So interesting enough, when I looked at leaving the UAE, I was searching for another country that was going to fit all of the criteria of what I was after. Okay. And Portugal was on the short list. Thailand was on the short list, as well as some other countries. Now, I had colleagues in Portugal. I could have made it happen. I could have moved to Portugal, but I started reading through the laws and looking at the government websites and the golden visas and all of these types of things. And I was just like, no, I mean, this is not, I don't believe them. I don't think that this is going to happen, especially these laws surrounding naturalization, where basically the scheme of the golden visa back in the day was that you could buy a piece of real estate anywhere in the country and then visit the country 1 week a year. And after 5 years, you were going to get a citizenship with basically no work and no, extras, anything like that. They were just going to give you a European citizenship. And I went, I don't think so. I don't believe them. I think that they're a bunch of liars. And once again, just like with Malaysia, I was actively steering people away from Portugal for the last 5, 6, 7 years. I've been trying to tell people not to go to Portugal. We don't have any real estate developments in Portugal. We didn't do the golden visa. It's not on our website. We were not shilling these types of things because I just was like, this is a complete scam. And so what ends up happening now, all of these people who are now supposed to get their passport, so they either didn't listen or were working with another firm or things like this, they're about to get their passport. They should qualify. And so what does the government do? Instead of honoring the deal that they made, which would have been honest and ethical, they decide to double it. And what do you honestly think is going to happen when they hit the 10-year mark? So another 5 years from today, do you think that they're going to keep it at 10 years and be like, okay, now you can finally have it? Or do you think that they might just move the goalpost again? Like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I mean, people should know better with these types of things. And now another country gotten rid of their non-habitual tax residency, just like the UK, making it less attractive. So people who are going there now, they have a top marginal tax rate of 45%. Like, talk about out of the pan and into the fire. I think that's a horrible situation. And anyways, even if you decided you wanted to do this, you now need to wait 39 months to get your visa. Okay? 39 months. Panama,
on average,
1 month.
It could be longer. It could be longer.
Could be longer. Panama, 1 month. Gee, I wonder why I choose to do Panama. My goodness. So almost 4 years of waiting to get your plan B in place, where in Panama, you would almost be ready for your naturalization at that point, which, by the way, my application is in. I've already gone through 3/4 of the procedure. I've already done my 5 years as a permanent resident, and next year should become a Panamanian citizenship. Okay. I should become a Panamanian citizen. So while you're still waiting in line, I'm already going to have my passport, and then they're going to move the goalpost on you anyways. So, I mean, at the end of the day, beautiful country, love Portuguese people, like wonderful people, amazing, amazing country and heritage and culture and food, but the government, no thanks, not for me.
That is truly mind-boggling. In this amount of time, just over this amount of time, is how long somebody would have to wait to actually just get the golden visa process. Forget citizenship. In almost that amount of time, you're going to actually become a Panamanian citizen. Meanwhile, there's people just in line for a golden visa in Portugal. It's unbelievable.
So if you take the 39 months to process this, then the new proposed 10 years, you're looking at just under 15 years to become a citizen.
If all goes well.
If I'm going to wait 15
minds.
years, I'm going to go get my Swiss passport. Okay. I'd rather go and get a Swiss passport in 15 years than I would waiting 15 years in Portugal. And that's if they don't move the goalpost once again.
All right. We're going to move on here to a couple stories about, I'm going to say these two are pretty tied together as well. The EU, I don't know what to say about the leadership of the EU overall, except that it seems they are intent on taxing and spending and pushing this war endlessly and endlessly and endlessly. So these two stories are very related. The EU's latest budget proposal doubles Ukraine aid and boosts military spending. I'm not going to exactly say that Donald Trump has been a dove on the Ukraine thing. He's probably more involved than I'd like the U.S. to be, but it would probably be naive for me to think he was going to really snap his fingers and have the war over on day one. But it's clear that Zelensky is not getting the same sort of support, at least not the same moral support that he was from the previous administration. So Europe in response has been doubling down, and they seem to have everything pressed on this war. Not just, I don't even know if it's a war they can't actually think they can defeat Russia in any sort of military sense. So it has to be seen as simply a never-ending war that they'll continue to dump never-ending bodies to. So while they're proposing doubling this Ukraine spending, guess what they've also proposed? This tax on companies, any company with a turnover above 100 billion euros. Of course, they're just doing all of this to shore up the budget.
No, it's crazy. I mean, it's supposed to be a war of attrition. So they're trying to bleed Russia out and weaken Russia. That was like the idea that they proposed. But it's kind of backfired because actually the ones who are going bankrupt and are losing everything is all of the Europe, anybody who's contributing to these types of things. Russia, I mean, I have friends and colleagues and clients, and I talk to them regularly. They're like, yeah, no, everything's fine here. It's okay. They're not seeing a curfews on the street for drug addicted children or whatever we were talking about before, child violence and things like that. They're not seeing all of these things. It's like, I don't know. It seems to have backfired pretty radically. And instead of just going, hey, we made a mistake, we misjudged the situation, and then trying to back out of it and negotiate and settle for peace, they just want to double down. Like, if we can just, tax harder and, we're going to win this. And it's like, you guys are so delusional. You have no idea what's going on with reality. It's just unbelievable. And for multiple times during this episode, I mean, I don't know any of my European brothers and sisters what you need to hear, but I mean, it's time to get out. Like, why would you want your tax dollars going to this? What a mess.
What a mess indeed. And I mean, I think we've seen quite a bit throughout history that when large governments really are collapsing, I mean, I guess there's a few ways they could react. They could react in an intelligent way and stop all the bad stuff they're doing, stop all the taxing and spending. That's really doesn't seem how European leadership is inclined. So they're really going in the other direction, where if your countries are collapsing, the way to sustain them, unfortunately, at least this is the view of them, is to go to war and to ramp up military spending and to create a war-based economy, which unfortunately they seem to be destroying the rest of the private sector. They don't actually create these weapons themselves. I don't know how they think this is all going to go, but I don't see it ending well. But unfortunately, it doesn't seem like the EU has much in the way of rational leadership whatsoever.
The whole thing is ridiculous. And I mean, I'm just very, very glad that there are alternatives out there, because this is not going to end well at all.
Well, this was the model they wanted for all of us. When they first came out with the EU, it was really supposed to be like, well, this is how we could do it everywhere. So I suppose it's, in a way, in the grand scheme of things, it's good that it's not working out, because they really wanted to do this to the world. And now I think we are actually trending in a direction where no one really wants that. We're going to wrap this up with one more story that is actually not so dreary for once. We're going to talk about some changes to Malta's residency program, where things are actually going to get cheaper for families, instant residency, and some new changes there. So Malta is one country that, unlike a lot of these other EU countries, they are still pretty good in terms of wanting to attract wealth, wanting to attract expats into their country.
So Malta, you have to understand though, is a small island nation. This is not one of the large players or something like that. So they have to bring in revenue into their country that is non-tax dollars. Okay, so the big one that they were doing was the citizenship by investment, which Brussels basically said, you guys are not allowed to do that. They challenged them. They went to court. Every legal expert that I read was all saying that Malta had the case, that there was no way Brussels would win. And somehow Brussels did win. I mean, did push it through anyways. So Malta's had to get rid of their citizenship by investment, with the major complaint being that there's not enough substance to the citizenship by investment, meaning that there's not enough time. So it was completely acceptable to accept migrants from all over the world to flood across the borders. But, a couple of wealthy people that want to donate $1 million to Malta are now the evil and bad ones. Okay. Now, this has all happened. This is history now. The Malta citizenship by investment, the it did not go in our favor, and I say our because I work in this space, and I thought that it was a very, very solid program, and I liked the program very much. But now, so what are they going to do? They're going to go, okay, fine. You need more substance? Then here we're going to change our residency process. And I mean, just quickly looking through this, sounds like a very good residency. Sounds like a very, very reasonable type of plan. And they look like they're going to be trying to streamline things and make things faster, opposed to a 39 months. This is going to be an instant approval process. So it's like, Malta has some good people working there, some smart people who actively seem to want to see the country do well and bring in non-tax dollars in a fair exchange of value. If I believe that your residency or citizenship program is worth it, and I want to give you money to be able to participate in it, then let's make it happen. Like, that is an honest exchange of value and money. So I'm all for Malta. I hope that they do excellent with this program. Am I going to be using it a lot for my clients? Probably not, because it's still part of the EU. And I think there's still systemic problems in the EU that are going to bleed into Malta. And with Brussels being as aggressive as they are, then, I don't trust any of the policymakers in Europe. But I think in the right scenario for the right client or the right family that needs something, I think it's a solid option. I really think it's a solid option.
They at least seem to have leadership with the right attitude about these things, which is more than we can say for almost any other country in the EU, I think we could say.
I mean, I think that there's some good things going on in Hungary. I think that there's some good things going on in a couple of other places, but it's few and far between. It's not everywhere. That's for sure. The trend is in the wrong direction.
All right, Mikkel. Well, that does it for my stack of expat news. I know we've let the stack pile up a bit in the last month or two because we've all been quite busy, but we'll try to do this one a little more regularly.
Yeah, I would love to do it more regularly. We've just had so much on the go. We did the Canadian exit tour here in Panama, which was a huge success. So much fun. We had a huge meetup actually. During the event, we had probably about 30 some odd clients come in. Now, the only people who were invited were business class, first class, and private client, our hub members who got invites. But, we spent all night in Casco Viejo on a rooftop having cocktails and stuff like that. So that was a good one. We've got so many other trips and tours planned this year. We're gearing up for the summit at Expat Money Summit, as you rightly pointed out. We are already working on the Wealth, Freedom, and Passport Conference, March 6th and 7th, happening in 2026, which is going to be a huge one, which we expect. I don't know, we had 200 people last year. I would expect 350 people to fly in for that event. So that's going to be a big one. But if you guys, once again, go to expatmoney.com/trips, you're going to see all the events, workshops, masterminds, all of these types of things going on the website. So make sure you join the newsletter and you'll be the first to know about all of it.
All right. Well, rock on, Mikkel. It's been a blast. And if you don't mind, I'm going to go, more in today's loss a little bit.
Absolutely. Hulk out, my friend.
Sure thing, brother.